Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on SQL tutorials from Codeflix. So in the last video we tried to set up our MySQL workbench, and I also showed you what other places you can go to access the SQL that we will be going through in this course. So for now, if you have everything set up in the MySQL workbench, you'll see something like this. So in this video we will be starting to create a database, and we will use that database to create a table in that. So I will show you how to create a database. So for that you just write create, and then you write what to create, that is a database, and then you give a name to the database. You will give it as Codeflix and give it a semicolon at the end. Now, how will you run this particular thing? So there are two ways. So you can see those lightning symbols here. So if there are multiple lines here like this, and if you want to execute everything here in this file, then you choose this lightning symbol. But if I want to run just particularly only this thing here, then I have to choose the lightning symbol with the I. So it says that it executes the statement under the keyboard cursor. So wherever the keyboard cursor is, or whatever portion is selected, like this, or we select two lines, then if we click on this thing, it will run these two lines only. So for now I'll remove this thing, and for now I have only one line, so I'll use the lightning symbol. So it says that create database Codeflix is successful. So our database has been created. Now to drop the database, you can write drop, and what do you want to drop a database, and then you give a name Codeflix, and then select. And this time I will select it because I have a create and a drop. So first it will create, if I choose this thing, first it will create and then it will try to drop, but it has been already created, so it will give us an error. So this time I'll choose the lightning with the I. So it says that the drop database Codeflix is successful. So for now, I'll create it again so that everyone can use it. So I created, and then to use, I'll just write use the database name. So I'll use Codeflix and choose the lightning I symbol, and it says use Codeflix is successful. Now to create a table in our database, we first have to use the database. So I did that, I used the Codeflix database, and now we can run the query for creating a table. So let's create a table called customers, which has a ID, a name, a age, and an address in it. So let's go on to create it. So I'll write create and table. So what do you want to create? A table, and then you give the table's name. So let's give customers as the name of the table, then braces, and then a semicolon at the end. Now here in the inside you give all the columns that you need. So first is ID, the name of the column, then you give the data type. So I want it as an integer, ID as an integer. Now do I want it null or not null? So I don't want it to be null because I will be making it as my primary key, so I don't want it to be null. And then as I said, I want to make it as my primary key, so I will write primary key here. So it will automatically make the ID parameter as my primary key during the creation of the table, and we don't have to do it later on. Then I want to create a name, and I want to give it as a string. So usually in coding we give it as string, but in SQL we use varchar, which is variable characters, as a full form, and then in the brackets we give the length. So I think that my name should be about 30 characters max, so I give it as 30. If you think you want to give the maximum, you can give max here, and it will be a max. But this particular MySQL does not support max, so you have to give some length. So I'll give 30. Then I don't want it to be null, so that is it. Then I have my age, I want it to be integer, and I don't want to specify any other parameters like not null or any primary key or foreign key. So by default it will select as null. And don't forget to give those commas, and then the address, and again I want it as a varchar. So the address might be pretty long string, so let's give it as a 75 size. And on the last column you don't have to give a comma. So I think that's it. We have an ID, we have a name, age, address. These are the four parameters that I want in my table. So what I'll do is I select and then run the lightning symbol. So it says that create table with the name customers, and this green tick here shows us that it has been successful, and the duration here shows the time taken to run this query. So it's like pretty fast, just like zero point 0.1 seconds to run this query. Now we want to see how this table looks, right? So there are two ways. First is here the schemas are given, then as we select CodeFlix, then we go to the tables, and there's a customer table which we created just now. It shows here, and then there are columns. So you can see ID, name, age, and address, which we created just now. ID, name, age, and address. And you can see if there are any indexes, any foreign keys, any triggers on it. So we have one index, the primary key index, and it will be shown here. So it has a primary key which is the column ID, and it is unique and visible, so it is a yes for both. So that is one way to see the data in the table. Otherwise you just go here and select rows, and it shows us the visual format of the table. So ID, name, age, and address. Right now there is no data in it, so it is showing null, but in the next video we will see how to insert data into the customer table. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.